Hey, just a continuation from the previous video. I'd like to thank everyone who have supported me ever since the beginning, and of course all of those who have joined along the way. These videos would be nothing without the contributions and support that I've been getting from you guys, so thank you very much. On top of that, I'd like to send out my thanks to those who supported me while I was receiving my treatment last year. I know I didn't make it publicly known that I was receiving treatment, but I didn't think it would be very productive to send out these vibes, in a public sense until I was feeling better within myself. But for those of you who did, support me along the way, thank you very much. I really don't think I'd be here today without the support I got from my family and friends, so really, thank you from the bottom of my heart. To move on to the next subject of this video, I'd like to talk about a lady called Katie Hopkins. So for those of you who don't know her, Katie Hopkins is a reality TV star in the UK who became famous for being the first person ever to say no to Lord Alan Sugar on the TV show called The Apprentice. And ever since then, she has appeared on various chat shows and she writes articles for tabloids like The Sun, The Mirror, The Daily Mail. And the reason why she's so famous is because she is very opinionated, to put it lightly. In reality, she has very controversial opinions that do spark outrages in the public, but she feeds off that and she loves it, which is why she continues doing so. However, recently she has been put into hot water for some of the comments that she's been making, namely racist remarks. So an example being about a nurse who was working in Africa, I think, and she came back to the UK and she had Ebola. So she essentially brought Ebola into the UK. And this poor woman is fighting for her life in hospital. But Katie Hopkins thinks it's okay just to say, oh, those nasty little Scottish people bringing in Ebola to this country. And, that's really not okay. It's really not. This poor woman is really fighting for her life and, kicking her while down. Well done, Katie. You're a brilliant person. But that's not what I'd like to talk to you guys today. It's the recent campaign she's been making to help fight the obesity epidemic, which in itself is a very notable cause. The obesity epidemic is a real thing. 25% of the world's population are obese, 40% are overweight. Why not try and combat it? It's the way that she's trying to do it that really bothers me and a lot of other people. Number one, she has been making really harsh comments to people who are overweight in an attempt to try and motivate them to move forward. And she does this by publicly shaming them. She calls them fat, she calls them flabby, she calls them lazy. I mean, I remember reading one of her Twitter posts saying she doesn't like walking behind people who are overweight because of how flabby they are. And that is not okay. These people are already very self-critical, and, to label someone in that way with someone who's already got body image problems, it's only going to do harm. You're not actually moving forward by making these comments. She's only doing it for the money, for the media attention, and it's not okay. The other thing that she's doing is she's doing a documentary. It's less of a documentary and more of a hate film towards people who are overweight. In this TV show, let's say, she is eating 6,500 calories a day for I think about a few months to put on about 3 stone. And then after that, she goes on a diet, she does exercises, and she loses the weight. And the message of this documentary is, if I can do it, you can do it. There's no excuse. And unfortunately, Katie, that's not the way it works in most cases. Yes, in a minority of cases of people who are overweight and possibly obese, they're just eating too much. If you point them in the right direction to eat right and do more exercise, they lose the weight. Hey presto, finish. However, in the majority of cases, it's not like this. Some people with obesity have an underlying anxiety disorder that's causing them to overeat. And in some ways, these cases of obesity should be looked in the same way as eating disorders like anorexia and bulimia. You don't, you don't look at someone with anorexia and just say, just eat more. I mean, some people do, but don't pay attention to them. And these cases of obesity should be looked at in a clinical context. Another light that obesity should be looked under is almost an epidemiological point of view. So, we as humans have been experiencing periods of feast, but also periods of famine for thousands of years. And it's only within, say, the past 50 years where food has become plentiful, out-of-season food has become available all year round, and also a lot of processed foods have become readily available, very calorie-dense foods that people are just consuming on a regular basis. And, we as humans aren't evolved to be able to cope with this increased load. And because of that, what do? We store fat and therefore gain weight. I'm not trying to sort of make excuses for people who are overweight with obesity. I'm just saying that there are other factors that you need to consider before you just blame the person themselves. However, it's not that side of the argument that I'm sort of so bothered about. It's something else that may seem quite counterintuitive at first, and it's that Katie Hopkins' comments and campaign, the way she's going about it, has been considered triggering for people with eating disorders like anorexia and bulimia. So, she's been calling them fat, she's been calling them flabby, she's been calling them lazy. If you look at someone who has an eating disorder, the very fundamental aspect of their treatment at the beginning is weight restoration. So you see someone with an eating disorder, anything higher than the weight that they're already at, they consider to be overweight. And if there's someone like Katie Hopkins who's branding people who are overweight as fat, flabby, lazy, it just makes them more self-critical and it makes them more reluctant to put on the weight. And for those who are at a healthy weight, they are in a very vulnerable position at that point of time. So anyone who makes comments like this, it's a very triggering thing to say. That they might start restricting again. They may start vomiting again. And I'm not saying this without any proof. I've had so many people messaging me on Twitter saying that she's been very triggering. And so I sent her a message on Twitter saying, "Do you care about these people?" And the reply I got up there, "I didn't know anything about it." That's not an excuse, Katie. Ignorance is never an excuse. So the aim of this video is for me to urge everyone to continue badgering her, because ever since I provided her evidence that she is triggering, she hasn't replied back to me. So I just urge you guys to badger her until we get a response out of her, because it's only until she's humiliated that she realizes that she's not a god, and she is doing real harm to people who are in a particularly vulnerable position right now. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope to be making a video soon.